You were before. How's the old saying, Howard? Yeah, I'm never going to be like that again, you know. I'm finished with that. That's all right. You follow? I've become a Chabadsker, you know. So I'm a Chabadsker. I've had it, you know. I'm always in it. And I don't have any really weak moments. I mean, you're only human, so, but you don't fall back on the 4 feet. That's what we can suggest the Alter Rebbe was looking for. So to put it in a slightly more highfalutin sort of way, we could ask, what is the difference between what you might call a behemoth and an otter, we spoke about before, or a behemoth on 2 feet. What is the difference? You see, it's not just a question of, you know, I don't eat like a behemoth anymore, or I don't do things in a behemoth way. I'm already on 2 feet. It's a bit deeper than that. But the Alter Rebbe's Torah teaches us and brings us to a point where we say, we ask ourselves a question, and we say, what am I really doing here? You know? So I came down here to be a highly trained animal, to stand on my 2 feet, but basically, I'm still an animal, but I've got a very powerful thing working on me that helps me to be a heavenly type animal, you know. But is that what I came down into? That's what I'm doing down here. I have to ask myself the whole time, what am I really supposed to be doing around here? You know, what is my job? You know, what is the tachlis? You know, what's the aim of the ganze Meise? And so you might say that we can sum it up. There's an old saying in English, if you want to really insult somebody, you say he's an immature person. You know, he's immature, you know. So what do you mean by saying that he's immature? And what do you mean by saying that somebody's mature? What's the difference? So an immature person, he doesn't look beyond a certain point. You know, he just, for example, he might say, well, I also have an aim when I eat, you know, I've got to be healthy, and you know, I'm looking after myself, you know, and I've got an aim, and I'm doing, you know, and if I'll be looked after myself, maybe I'll be able to be better and be more active. Oh, but that's what you're really doing here. That's the whole story. A mature person says, what is required of me? What does Hashem want of me? You know, not what is, you know, nice, balbatische, behemoth life, but what am I really supposed to be doing, and what do they want of me? Well, that's a mature person. So a mature person, yeah, he's not going to be falling down again so quickly back into the 4 legs. He's not going to fall down. Why? Because he's asking himself the whole time, what does Hashem really want of me? What am I doing here? So could be he might say, well, I don't really know. You know? So then you have to ask a rabbi, or you ask your mashpia, or your question, but you start working out, you know, what am I really supposed to be doing around here? And you try the best you can, and you try to bring it in such a way that you will do it that way. And you try to make yourself have a certain aim and a certain plan in life. You're not just living to be there and to have your family and make sure that everybody is okay and gets married off and the whole thing. But you have a aim, you know, you're trying to bring something about. And so what is it you're trying to bring about? You're trying ultimately that your plan, what are you really supposed to be doing? And Hashem's plan should get together some way. And like I said, in order to do that, you need maybe a lot of help. You know, you need to have a Rebbe, a Mashpia, a very elegant person who can help you with that. So that's, let's say, that's the first step that the Alter Rebbe, with teaching sitters, he took people and he stood them up from 4 legs onto 2 legs, but he wanted they should remain that way. He didn't want that there would be weak moments when they would fall back. And then he wanted of them that, you know, they should ask themselves, what am I really doing around here? You know, what's my aim, or what's my tactic? What's it all about? So if a person reaches that, then he's sort of grown up a bit. You know, he's no longer childish. He's no longer what they call a klein keppel. You know, he's not a small head anymore. You know, what a klein keppel in Yiddish is where, you know, the small things sort of govern you. They still have a pull on you. So you're not that way anymore, because you look at the heavens. You don't have any time for all this, you know, Bob and Miser. However, it still is what you might call limited. It's in some way connected with what we might call Seder Hishtalshalas, you know. The way the Eibishter made the world, but he made it in a certain limited way, and people come about and they have needs and they live, you know, and there's all sorts of rules of everyday life. And you've got to look for Hashem and try and work out what is his plan. Or it's all, you know, in some way, it's all limited. It's ultimately speaking back into, you haven't fallen down onto 4 legs, but you're basically speaking back into what you might call balabatis, etiquette. You know, you're back into a seder of balabati shaleba. Yeah, you live your life, and you say, listen, I live out my 70, 80 years, you know, and otherwise I shouldn't do any more Vedas, and I should only serve Hashem, and I should see my kinder, everything right with them, and I've done a good job, you know. So he's done a good job, yeah. Oh, but that's ultimately what it's all about. That's got to do with the world and the way it was, yeah, created with a limitation. And so you live in the limitation in a way that you're a little bit in charge of it, but nonetheless, you're still in limitation. If you hadn't learned Chassidus, then you would have been walking around on 4 feet, more or less. You might think to yourself that you're not, but that's the mice of what would be. Now you've learned Chassidus, and you come in, you come occasionally to a Fabring, and you get involved. You know, you're up on 2 legs already. You've stood up, and you're looking at the heaven, and you're moving ahead nicely, you know. But you're still within limitation, you know. So let's put it in the old vernacular. You don't ask ultimate questions, you know. You don't ask too much. You never say, but, you know, what is the ultimate plan of everything? Things like that, you don't ask. You know. You live a nice, very, very respectful, balabati. Every now and then you might go out of your kelim a bit, you know. You might take a bit of mashkia, sometimes dance or fall down the stairs or something. But basically, you know, you try to start. So, you know, that's pretty good going, you know. I think there's a lot of people would buy that, you know, and they would be envious of such a situation. So ask yourself, however, the question by all of us sitting around this table, is that I'm a 2-feeder, I'm not a 4-footer, and everything. That's, you know, that's the ultimate story, you know. That's really what it's all about. So the Alter Rebbe, he could have sat after he came from Masoret, and he could have had a nice minyan of Yidden, and he would have had a lot more than a minyan. At the beginning, he only had a relatively small minyan when he first came from Masoret. There's a very interesting story, you know, that the Alter Rebbe was a Mishchir. He was into Mashiach very much. There was a whole miser that somebody said, you know, well, what's all this Mashiach business? So the Alter Rebbe said that everybody sees the Mashiach has to come. Everybody understands that we have to want Mashiach. The whole question is what the Alter Rebbe said. He said, the ganze Shaila is, where is where? You understand? Who's who? Who's who? So everybody sort of looked at the Alter Rebbe and said, yeah, who's who, you know? So the Alter Rebbe said, I know who's who. He meant the Magi. So if the Alter Rebbe could say that way back, you know, in Tov Kuf X, Lamed X, or Kof X, Kof X, yeah. The Alter Rebbe could say that the whole question is who is who. And then he said he knows who is who. What do people have tinnitus nowadays, you know? Why should it be so naughty if you say, you know, that who's who? What's the problem? You know, the Alter Rebbe did it. Anyway, let's leave that aside for a moment. Not aside, but we'll sort of, you know, delay our final move into that one for just a little bit further down. And we'll say that the Alter Rebbe, he didn't go to Petersburg only to produce, you know, 2-feeder, nice, balabatim, well-organized siddim, you know. That's why he went to Petersburg. Yeah. They might say, well, he didn't have much choice, you know. They took him in an armed coach, yeah, to Petersburg. What do you mean? That's why he went to Petersburg. So the answer is that who was in charge? Who really ran the whole situation? Huh? The Alter Rebbe. You see it every moment. The Alter Rebbe wanted to stop for Shabbos, stop for Shabbos. Whatever the Alter Rebbe wanted, even when he was in prison, he got it in the end. He didn't want to eat at the beginning. And in the end, the minister came in and he got schmoozing with him, and the Alter Rebbe persuaded him to go out to a chassid, you ever lived? Rabbi Saul Kozik or something, where's what his name was? And he would bring food, yeah, for the Alter Rebbe. Kosher, Sidisha, food. And the Alter Rebbe persuaded him that part of the kashrus was that the way you bring it, and after it's been eaten, you have to take it back and leave it the way he mustn't touch it. So he would take back the plate exactly as it was. So what did the Alter Rebbe do? He hid a message under what he left over on the plate, and that's how the Hasidim outside knew that he was still alive. And that's how they began to sort of plan what part they could take with the Alter Rebbe instructing them in ultimately bringing the triumph. So we see that the Alter Rebbe was in charge of the whole situation. And even before he left, on the night before he went away, he spoke to Shmuel Monkid. You know about him. He was a very great person, by the way. And he said, Shmuel, should I go or shouldn't I? So I thought the question happened. Now, what do you mean, should you go or shouldn't you go? You know, anybody's asking you, Elamai, if he had wanted not to go, I don't think it would have been a big problem for the Alter Rebbe to not go. Finished? He didn't go. So, kommt euch, that the Alter Rebbe was in charge of the whole situation, and he dafka went. You follow? And so that's what the Rebbe Rashab, that's what I mentioned before. The Rebbe Rashab said that began the whole inyan, or the tachlis of the whole inyan, to bring Moshiach Yafutu Maynasocha Chutu. That began with the moment the Alter Rebbe got in the coach with these armed guys, and he drove off to Petersburg. So what we're going to do now, we're going to call on Yishai. צריך להרביץ זה, ואנחנו נשמע ביחד. Then we will see בהמשך what's going on around here. We haven't finished yet. We've only reached the first stage. We've got two other stages that we're going to describe. And if anybody manages to stay awake, that may. Anyway, l'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim l'chaim,
So give it to practice in your hands. Okay. Thank you. Anigun.
Yeah, man. There has to be a one-man band around there to sing also. Hello, Badikazar.
What happened to Rothschild? Does anybody? I think he went for a smoke.
Oh yeah?
I think so, yeah.
You think so?
Well, I know so.
Yeah. He's an old student of mine. Anyway, so what's the next step in the whole thing? Let's take the beginning of the parasha. The Alter said you have to live with the tide, you know, live with the tide. Come a bit closer, it's hard for me to shout. Nobody's going to bite you, you know. As a mela, we have to live with the parashas of Shavuot. So it's brought down by Yeshav Yaakov be'eretz magurei ovi. So Rashi brings down, Rashi says that Yaakov Avinu bikesh leisha b'shalva. Yaakov Avinu wanted to sit at the Kohen peacefully, you know. Well, it's a pretty defensible human Indian that a man says he wants to sit in peace, you know. Leisha b'shalva. He wants, I suppose, what people call in English peace of mind, you know. He wants peace of mind. So the Abish says got a whole breaker, and the Abish says, well, it's not enough for the tzaddikim, well, I'm going to give them a lot of peace in Eilam Haba, but they go asking for manucha b'zeh or Eilam. Abish says, makbid, about that. And then all of a sudden, kofetz alav reigzoi shel Yezu. All of a sudden, holding with Yezu, a tzaddik starts all going crazy and just tzoras and tzar. He thinks that Yezu, at the beginning of Hukman, he thinks he's been killed with the ganze Meiser. Tzoras, 22 years old. Eventually, when he gets to Mitzrayim, then we know the famous story that the Alter Rebbe said they were the 17 best years of Yaakov Avinu, the last 17 years in Mitzrayim. And so ultimately, the Eibishter did give him that he should be able to leisha b'shalva. Over the time being, the Eibishter said, what highest Wester does. Kofetz alav reigzeh shel Yezu. So we need to understand what is this that Yaakov Avinu says he wants to leisha b'shalva. What's it up, Shech? What is it? Yaakov Avinu was the sort of yid that he wanted to sit on his couch and puff, you know, a cigar. Or if he thought a cigar was maybe not tasty, a cigarette. Maybe have a nice little, you know, up-to-date connoisseur wine, you know, every now and then. That's the sort of Yaakov, you know, was Elamai. Das ist sicher that Yaakov didn't mean that. He didn't mean to sit on the couch or lay on the couch and puff a cigar. That's not what he meant. No, what? Yaakov Avinu wanted to be, you know, within what you might call normal limitations, you know, not terrible limitations, but he wanted to be where he would do all his berurim, you know, he would purify what he could, and he would look out things, you know, he maybe occasionally might give a shiur in the base medrash, Hashem ba'eba, you know, and he goes, nice going, you know. And people won't be able to say Yaakov Avinu didn't make the world a better place. What's that? You know, made the world a better place. No, then it's all sort of, you know, what we said before, Pelabatis, you know. So the Eva says, that's what this guy, you know, he has a chutzpah to suggest us, you know. I'm going to give him an Olam Habo who knows what he already wanted in this world. And just try. Kovzlo Yezu. Ask yourself the Shaila, you know, what's this whole Indian? Why did Yaakov have to go through this whole thing? Why? And why did it was terrible hard going? And then there's a miser that Yosef is somehow connected with this whole thing. He becomes very involved with Yosef, and all of a sudden he loses him. Doesn't know what's going to happen. And Yosef gets down to Mitzrayim, and he all of a sudden becomes the master of the whole civilized world in those days, pretty much. Yeah. So what's going on around here? And then ultimately speaking, there happens a mitzvah from Podo B'Sholeh. You follow? There happens a Podo B'Sholeh. Ein Ochanami, Podo B'Sholeh Mikro. There's been a battle before, but there's a very special redemption which is called B'Sholeh. Podo B'Sholeh. From a war, albeit there's a war that's been going on, but now Podo B'Sholeh. Ki Barabim Hoyu Modi. What does that mean? Because the many you were with me, or I was with the many, or somewhere or another I got linked up with the many. So I thought to show what's this whole inyan? So what I want to tell you like this. The Alter Rebbe didn't sell us a peaches and cream deal, you know. And he didn't even sell you very balbatish shalva opitera, where you keep all the Torah mitzvahs, everything is fine. But instead of, you know, balbatish, he didn't sell us that either. That's not what he wanted, the Alter Rebbe. Now, what then the Alter Rebbe wanted that you should, at a certain point, and maybe for X amount of time, and it could even be that seems to you for a lot more time than you were prepared for at the beginning, that you have to have it, that there's something working against you. You've got to have a struggle in a way. It's not just you know, overcoming some of the difficulties, but it's a real struggle, you know, it's a real fight, you know, this. And if you look in Perek Lamed, in Tanya, then you'll see it. And he says, you're not allowed to daven, you have to have shvichas hanefesh. Every day, midi yom b'yoyim, you have to pour out your soul. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. And he says you have to fight until your nefesh is ready to leave your body. Every day. That's what he says over there. Otherwise, you know, you're not in the club of the Bainanim. You don't belong to the Bainanim. No, who do you belong to? Balabatim. You belong to the Balabatim. Or you're not in the club of the Bainanim. He's got to have this koyach negative. Ad mitzvah hanefesh till his neshama leaves his body. Hi. For oid. So, unbelievable thing. And so here we got a person like the Alter Rebbe. They came and looked for the Alter Rebbe in the base of Medrash. The Alter Rebbe had a beautiful shul full of all sorts of high, very elevated people. And they were learning his Torah and everything was wonderful. But no, they dragged the Alter Rebbe, put him in their coats, and Oyam V'Noah was skateful, in other words. And just with Nisim, you know, he gets a bit of food. with Nissim, with this and with that. Oh, in the meantime, all these Sarim and all the ministers, almost all of them, in the government and the Tsar, you know, they all sit, their eyes popping out of their heads. You know. And they say, you know, look at this, as if their own problem. There's a divine figure in the altar. They were sure of it. The Tsar, he left the altar every chat. He managed like this. What's going on here? There had to be Petersburg. Zot gemusst. There had to be this whole thing. And so it comes, and a good chairman, particularly out of the Zayas, unless you quit you. It's put down the Mishnah, the Zayas, then it gives out a chip. If you want to get the Shema, you have to quit it. So I thought the Shadow, why do I have to quit it? Let it give for the Shema, you know, what's it? Just let it sit down, take a nice bucket of cocktail or something. You know. Pour out your Shema. You know, what do you need a space of bud can quit you know. And then you give out the Shema. So the answer is that the Alter Rebbe says that Leishe B'Sholva is not on. For words, because like we said, Leishe B'Sholva to make connection with limitation. I have to fight the deepest power and definitely have the faintest. And Mesiras wasn't a Perik Lamed, and then it comes up all. Damir earlier that it's a pillar that the neshama doesn't create worlds like the Eibishter. Every Yiddish neshama should be able to create worlds like the Eibishter. But because it left Atzilus, it's already gone out from the Kadium a little bit in debris, so of course it doesn't create worlds. Or it should be able to. Why? Because you've risen to a point where you're beyond limitation altogether. And that's called shalom. That's how it's shalom. When you're on a level like that, then you live in peace. Yes, then it's real peace. That's emerson peace. And then you are saved from everything. But in order to get there, wait, you have to fight. You have to fight very, very, very hard. And it's well known what the Alter went through in those 53 days, you know. He went through the whole Shiva Madhura Gehenna. But, yeah, so at the beginning it was a war. It was a Balbatisha war, you know. I'm Mavara, I'm good, I'm fine, but, you know, I fight against unpleasant things, you know, and I take a good stand. I vote for the right people, you know. I'm saying, it comes along, Podo B'Sholem. I get it up all level. I'm in the level of Sholem. I reach as a level where I'm up and beyond everything. Yeah. And I'm B'chol Mi'edecha, there's no holds anymore, no etiquette, no limitations anymore. Of America's Podo, it's a padia from the situation where it was before, but it's b'shalom, it leads and is the level of shalom. Over with that the Alter Rebbe teaches us that you mustn't be worried if things look to be going a little bit not the way you quite calculated. And if things seem to be going a little bit worse than what, not quite how you calculated, or things are really giving you trouble, you know, and there's all sorts of, that's all part of the deal. And on the contrary, not only is part of the deal, that's what ultimately, he says in Pashariyeh, in Likkutei Torah, that's what came down into the world. That's really why he came down. Therefore, when Yaakov Avinu wanted to, you know, have a nice base of medrash and have a nice lot of guys, you know, so the Rebbe said, what's this? You know? And they had to be right, they had to be this whole thing. And the Alter Rebbe had to go. And that's why the Rebbe Rashab says that only up till then, you know, they hadn't been there. Over there somewhere else, we're very happy, you know, about the Goyim. Well, he doesn't really mean even over there. And that's because Alter Rebbe had to come, and Yaakov, they had to work against the Beis Abad, you know. He's coming down and fetching, very, very heavy. What they did was they gave out their Shema. You know, instead of saying, okay, he wants to quetch me, so I'm signing off. You know, I've had enough of this messing around. Instead of that, they gave out their Sheman, you know. And Sheman, in Pnimis Atera, in the highest Matrega, higher than water. Sheman goes up over water. Of a Mela, it's a very unbelievable, profound inyan. But there has to be the quetch, there's got to be a Beis Abad. And then you give out the Shema, then comes the Shema. Bleakville is not as big as Bleakville, but it's Bleakville. Shema all over the place. Spread things around. And I'll give over once, Bisholim. You're redeemed, but you're redeemed Bisholim. You're higher than just Birurim, you know. You're no longer involved in what you might call the ordinary Holocaust. You're already up in a new level altogether, a completely new world. And you're, whether you want it or not, you're affecting the world. Not the world's affecting you, but you're affecting. You follow? That's the second level that I want to bring out. But how does it all work and get together? We see that Yosef's involved here. When you think about it, what was Yaakov Avinu doing, sending Yosef to the brothers? You know, he wanted to know what's happening with the flocks. Yeah, take a nice, intelligent messenger and send him over and find out what's going on with the flocks. You have to take your own precious, unbelievably loved son, yeah, and send him into the lion's mouth. Mummy, Yaakov Avinu couldn't possibly be described as not knowing what was going on. He just didn't know the club. Well, Oviv Shoma Satovah, he heard what they said, and he knew what was going on. So what's he doing? Sending Yosef into the lion's mouth. Mamish takes Yosef and sends him into the lion's mouth. Yaakov Avinu was a big mishchez. Yaakov Avinu, he wanted to bring the Geula, like we said. He wanted to reach a point where it'd be the same revelation of what we call the Geulish land. That's what he was after. And that's why as soon as he got out of Lavan, even before he gets back to his home, even before he goes looking for Esau. Don't go looking for him, he's looking for trouble, you know. You go and hide somewhere and creep to an underground tunnel or something back to where you live and forget about Esau, you know. No, it takes Malachim and you're looking for Esau, looking for trouble. So why was he looking for trouble? Because he wanted, the Rebbe says he learns Pshat in Torah last week, that Yaakov Avinu said to Esau, let's go together to a big new world. Yaakov Avinu was the sort of guy that he worked hard, he didn't waste his time. And he was already holding by big time, he was holding by the Geula. And so people who work hard, they think other people also work hard. Or they expect it of other people, at least. And so he thought, well, Esau is my brother, and he's also a son of Yitzchak, and he's got big lights in him. He's probably been doing what I've been doing. And therefore he sends Malachim to Esau, saying, let's get moving and let's bring the Geula. Yeah, let's do it. What's Yosef got to do with it? As Yosef is Olam HaTzilas, he's a very high level. And the brothers are on a much lower level. If they get together and Yosef lights them up, then we're holding by the Yosef because we want Moshiach. No, that's why he sent you. So, but my next show, that the brothers are a bit brilliant. What is? We're talking about bringing. Yeah, we're talking about bringing the Gula Shlema. In his pocket. So Paro set up so. And if you have an oral of Amir Yosef, the whole checklist is a love Yosef. Because I just assume we'll go home and we'll be late. You follow? It's Amir, and he's. I asked him to sing in England, and he hoped on fetching. חיים, שים רב, כמה תודה, יאללה חיים, So what I want to do now is we're left with what they call the glorious few, you know, so we've got to come to work towards what but that's the way it works with me. I sort of wander around until I get to the pitch point. So now what we're doing, we're taking the spotlight and we're moving from Peterburg, and we're moving the Alter Rebbe out to Peterburg. So let everybody listen. Everybody's enjoyed this.
Yes, competition. Wenn man ein bisschen heiße Suppe, sind Haare, als Haare.
No, everybody finished it soon. So, anyway, what do I need all this for? I could be leisure patrol, you know. I could just go home and take it easy, and I don't know why I don't do it, but anyway. So the situation is that we moved the spotlight now, and we're still in Russia, but we've left Petersburg and all that behind, and we've gone over to a little town called the Bebit. And the fifth Nazi that ever I showed, all of a sudden he sets up a moised called Tomchetmim. Shalom Aleichem, you know, what's he want with Tomchetmim? What's not enough yeshivas? What's he even Tomchetmim? So we see that Tomchetmim was unbelievable ashpoah of Pnimis Ater like there's never been before. The Rambam, Chassidus Chabad, was working, and it poured out. You know, it's Mishtapches of Pnimis Ater, the Rosh Kol Chutei, and the Bochrim. Exposed to this unbelievable light, so they start, you know, growing, and they mamish were out of this world. The real Tmimim, the early Tomchetmim, I heard from Reb Nochum that had they been by in Polish Chassidim, they would have made them into Rebbes. Yeah, the early Tmimim.
Not the Polishes.
Ordinary Bochum and Tomchetmim. Had they been by the Polish, they would have grown them up to be admirer. They were really, why? Because they were living in the most unbelievable Gan Eden justice, and the river was pouring it forth, you know. And just to look at him was a pachad, just to see him. All of a sudden comes along the year Tofrei summer base, and Tomchetmim has already been 3 or 4 years already of this unbelievable, you know, exposure. You know. All of a sudden, on Simchas Torah, I think it was, the Rebbe Hashem lets out a sikha of what does he really want of these guys, you know, these Tmimim that he's made, you know. What does he really want of them? And what does he call them? You know, what, apart from Tmimim, what does he see out there? What's he hoping for them? So all of a sudden it comes up with an expression, Chayalei Beis David. That you guys are no longer sitting in a Gan Eden, you know, listening to all the Hemsheichim and, you know, becoming very elevated. You'll be able to go ahead with that as much as you can. But you got to realize that we've got to bring down Moshiach. And it's going to be a big fight. And in order to do so, I need B'chol Meidecha sort of guys, but not Balabatisha B'chol Meidecha either. Because even that can be a little bit Balabatis. Even B'chol Meidecha can be a bit Balabatis. I want Chayalim, Chayalei based on. So if you study carefully, whatever, all these unbelievable oivdim and these guys that they were talking to him, ultimately they all became Rabbonim, or Malamdim, or Shochtim, in all sorts of very difficult places in Russia. So what's a Rov? A Rov is something that Tzemach Tzedek said that to make a Rov, you're mafkir and neshama for the benefit of the cloud. But you're mafkir is neshama. Because you keep to do so much, it's impossible. You have to keep going, so, you know, no Rahman Safim, you know. He's got to do the work of the tzibur. Mesiras Nefesh, Otzum. A Malamed in those days was the same thing. He was the center of all the houseboys. And so the Rebbe took this unbelievable Moised that was just basking in the most unbelievable...
What about the Shachtim? What about the Shachtim?
Gilui, Shachtim also. The whole thing of Kashrus depends on the Shechah. The ganze Indian of what a human being is what he eats. So the Shechah, in those days, the Shechah was a big mashpia usually. He was a big influence in the whole community. We see that this whole unbelievable basking in the light of Velakus all of a sudden it gets translated into something different, you know. Mesiras Nefesh, unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh, and Mesiras Nefesh to bring the house of David into being. What does that mean? Moshe? So the Rebbe Hashem revealed that the next step in Potter Bisholim is war, you know, Chayalim. Chayalim based Dovin. And the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, the Rebbe says that that's a Rosh HaTevis. The Rebbe Hashem didn't say that. But the Rebbe said that Chayalim based Dovin is a Rosh HaTevis Chabad. So the Rebbe Hashem made a new Chabad. He made a new Chabad that if you want to be in the, how do you call it, in the notebook of Chabad, you want to go down in the annals of Chabad, then you got to be a Chayal. No holds barred, a Chayal is Adasah, Mesiras Nefesh. Part of Bisholim, Mufla. Philip. So all these people here in this city, all the rest, they realized what was going on. And so that's what happened, the Bavit. And after the Rebbe Hashem, the Rebbe Ayat took the Rebbe and he himself lived personally that Mesiras Nefesh. Yud Beis Tamar. Unbelievable. Anybody who has the faintest idea of what it was like? No. And they led the Rebbe out to shoot him. And he took the wrong turn, and they didn't realize that he'd taken the wrong turn. And it took them afterwards an hour and a half to find him in that absolutely diabolically meshuggah place. And during that hour and a half, they changed their minds. In the big window, they said, stop for a while and don't shoot him. But had he not taken the wrong path, and the guards didn't think they were busy chatting one with the other, getting their rifles ready to shoot him. And so he took the opportunity to dive down a side passage, the Friedrich Rebbe. So what do we see from that? Unbelievable Messiah's Nefesh, Ad Asod. Chayalei Beis David. So the whole spotlight altered. You know. It's still part of a sholem, but it's, wow. And so that's, how do you do that, you know? How do you fight like that? The moment they fought, it was unbelievable, you know, the darkness was closing in from all sides. And that was the war against Moshe. The Rebbe said the Pasuk, yeah, that we're fighting against those who are opposing Ichvois Meshichecho. That's what the Rebbe Rashab said in the famous Sikha. We got to do with a Choshech what is fighting the killer of Moshiach. So we have to fight back our absolute holy one. Ah, come on, he's also gone. What's with you, Samuel? What's with you? You mean to tell me you're pulling out? These guys, you know, 40 years ago in the yeshiva, I would have wiped the floor with them. So it's another Indian altogether. This is part of Basholin from a crow, no holds barred, you know, it's money, life and death. People got caught and sent to Siberia, and somebody else came in their place. You realize what that is? Just think for a moment what that means. They saw this guy sent away, and 2 weeks later they come out to take his place. You guys want to sit b'shoulder? Bikish leisure b'shoulder. That's what was going on. That's the spotlight of an unbelievable holy war, and the Rebbe Rayatz carried it to Olamadan. All of a sudden, we move the spotlight now to another situation. We bring our big, intense light on something further, a whole new step. On Kof Ches Sivan, in Toshin Aleph, all of a sudden there appears on the scene a young man. Kof Ches Sivan, the Koyach of Matan Torah, Sivan. He appears on the scene, and little by little, he and Yesod, that's the Frierdiker Rebbe, joined together. Yesod and Malchus joined together. And when Yesod gives everything it's got into Malchus, then Malchus takes off. K'mavur b'Kabbalah, k'mavur b'drush chesed. Well, that's what happened. And so Malchus took off in this unbelievable development. And so what did Malchus have to say? What did Malchus say? So I'm going to tell you guys a story, an interesting little story. So I mean, you know, I should, you know, finish up and base up myself. I got to tell somebody these stories, you know. Tomorrow I'm not going to be able to move, and what can I do? I have to tell the story. So what happened was, it was, I'm moving the spotlight now over to Tofshin Mem Beit. Now, or Mem Aleph, I'm already getting old, and by me that's already 46 years ago, or 36 years ago, something like that. And there were a lot of things I'm supposed to remember before that. And I'm already, you know, not so clear. But I think it was Mem Aleph or Mem Beit. And the Rebbe was sitting for bringing, it's a weekday for bringing. Maybe it was Kessler, maybe it was Hanukkah. It was early in the year. And you got these little kids that the Rebbe encouraged it. Young children used to play under the table when the Rebbe was for bringing. Yeah. The Rebbe was giving forth these unbelievable sikhs, and there was even one little boy used to play with the shoelaces on the Rebbe's chair. Yeah. And the Rebbe never pulled his foot away and said, what's going on here? Yeah. So the Rebbe was happy with it. So all of a sudden, one of these little kids gives out a gushay, and he says, we want Moshiach now. You follow? Nobody'd ever heard such a sentence. Yeah. He said, we want Moshiach now. So wasn't, the Rebbe's in the middle of it, all of a sudden the Rebbe, yes, under the table, we want Moshiach. So, there was unbelievable awe, split the whole of 770. And obviously you wouldn't believe it. There was 2 or 3 of these little kids, and they started singing, we want Moshiach now, we want Moshiach now. They started putting it to a nigger. And the Rebbe just lit up, and the Rebbe just went out of all limitation. And the Rebbe started, we want Moshiach now. And it became an unbelievable explosion in 7-7. You follow? Philip, when the Rebbe took it, we want Moshiach in English. So whatever happened. I don't know what exactly. Somehow or another, since we live in ultimately speaking, we live in it finished the Fabringen, yeah. And there went another few days, and it's Shabbat, came Shabbat. So I have a Talmud that lived in Crown Heights at that time. And he was Shabbos in the morning, he was standing outside 770 at about something like between 7:30 and 8, in the morning. That's relatively early, for Crown Heights Shabbos time. And he's standing, here's the main doorway, and he's standing a bit, if you're looking from here, he's standing a bit to the left, All of a sudden, what happens? He sees the Rebbe come down. The Rebbe, with the full majesty of his unbelievable majesty, the Rebbe came down, turned into 770, and started walking up towards the door. You follow? So he says, this is a golden opportunity, and he wanted to dive at the door and open the door for the Rebbe. He wanted to have a mitzvah opening the door for the Rebbe. So that's what he did. He dived literally at the door, and he got there before, because the Rebbe didn't mess around. The Rebbe paced very energetically, if you happen to know. If you ever saw the Rebbe walk, he paced very. And he got there, and he opened the door, he almost hit the Rebbe in the face, but he missed in both sermons. It was okay, you understand? And he opened the door, for the Rebbe. So the Rebbe was always very derech eretz. When anybody did a favor like that for the Rebbe, he always said thank you. But he said it in Yiddish. So the Rebbe turned to him and he said, Adank. In Yiddish that means thank you. So all of a sudden he thinks to himself, I want to make the Rebbe a nachas ruach. I just don't want to dank. I want to give him, nachas ruach. So all of a sudden he says to the Rebbe in English, and the Rebbe's sort of already in the door, the Rebbe's not messing around, yeah? All of a sudden he says, we want Moshiach now, you understand? So all of a sudden he said, the Rebbe stopped, The Rebbe froze on the spot. And the Rebbe turned to him and looked at him and went very serious, And he thought the Rebbe was going to, go like this. The Rebbe looked at him very serious, and he said, aber ich mein, b'poel mamish, mining. He said, I mean b'poel mamish. So this Talmud, he's so frozen, just mind-boggling. The Rebbe gives him a piercing look and walks further, and the door slams, you know. So he's telling you. So what does that mean? The Rebbe said to him, don't give me slogans. You follow? I don't want Moshiach now. We want Moshiach now. It's not a new Lubavitcher slogan. But it means poil mummies. By my Kinderlach singing, we want Moshiach now. I mean, the Moshiach has to come for poil. You follow? He's an intelligent guy, this guy, you know. He was just frozen to the spot. So he started living a new life after that. He realized he couldn't be poor mummies. You can't just say slogans, you know, and you can't just, you know, talk about Chabad or even learn it or be in it, you know. Poor mum. So ask yourself the question, how is the Rebbe achieving that? How's he achieving this poem? So now I promised you, but nobody seems to bother about it. I'm used to that. I promised you that I was going to talk about a third level, even higher than pot of a shop. And what's the third level? The third level is that the Rebbe came up and he said, everybody is a shliach. And he said, I want shluchim now. And if I have shluchim, then I'm going to bring Mashiach. And not only am I going to bring him, but I'm going to bring him b'peil mama. So what's the difference between Odom, who has been oile into Sholem, and he's been oile into Bli Gvul, and he's holding by everything, l'chora? What is the chiddush now of shliach? What does a shliach be mechadish of everything that's been up to now? And that's going to bring Mashiach. And therefore, it's not stam that the word shliach is the same oisias as Mashiach. It's just lacking 10 units. What is it, 10 units? That's the koiches of the shliach. The 10 koiches of the shliach make him into, he's a kleinschol Moshiach. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom.
If we had any koich, we'd make a shechiana over here. Over Mela. Yeah. You know who it is. So, here we are, we got a Moshiach, a small Moshiach on 2 feet. So what is he different than Chayalei Beis Doeg, for example? What did the Rebbe move everything into the idea of this whole concept of Shliach? Because if you're a Chayal, then that's a tremendous thing. But you are who you are, and you've signed up in the regiment. You're part of the game. So whatever the commander says, you know, the regiment does it. But they're like what they are, and the generals, he's in charge of them. And if they really, you know, turn on a good piece of war, you know, so then they're good soldiers. A shliach, shluchai shel odom kemoisoi. A shliach is another thing altogether. A shliach is a piece of the Mishalech. He's doing more than a piece. He's the Mishalech himself. Yom. That's what he is. And so what is that? They might say, well, he didn't drink all that much and he's gone so much sugar. So the answer is like this. It's written in Likutei Torah in the first Maimah in Vayikra. And the Alter Rebbe brings down over there, that's written in the Medrash Tanchuma, that you have to be mechabed the mitzvahs, because the mitzvahs are my shluchim. Chabdu es ha-mitzvahs shehein shluchai. They state the lesson. So the Alter Rebbe says, you know, what does that mean, that the mitzvahs are shluchah? He said there's missing one little point of Hesber, that a mitzvah has to have somebody to do it. A mitzvah is not a shliach for anybody if nobody does it. So that apparently implies that if somebody who does the mitzvah, he becomes a shliach of the Eibishter. He becomes the Eibishter's shliach. And he says over there that a shliach has to be kamoi hamishaleach. Now I'm telling you, you can look it up. It's written there, Mufurish in the Kutiter, that the shliach has to be kamoi hamishaleach. Otherwise, he's not a shliach. He's got to be kamoi hamishaleach. And so he says, Yidden kamoi hamishaleach. That's what he writes. Yidden, they're little Eibishters. Oh, but that's what's written there. And so he said, oh, the Malachim are also shluchim. Oh, he said, the Malachim are balabatish are shluchim. And he called it the Eibishter sort of sends through them and they give over, but they don't really, you know, they're like just a tool, you know, in the Eibishter sense. They just give over, you know, what he said. A Yid has got bechira. And he's boicher to give himself over to the Messiah. So he's a whole big emissary shliach. He could have been not, and Abu Piked he is. And who is he? He is like the Messiah himself. I see nobody around here seems to be particularly impressed by that. But I'm a bit puzzled by it. And it could be that the soup is too good. I don't know what's the problem. But everybody is a shliach. A shliach. A shliach is a piece of the Messiah. And he is mamish the Messiah. And the Rebbe said, everybody is a shliach. Kulam. Even if you're not a shliach in Madagascar or San Francisco or a place, wherever it happens to be, and you don't have a big Beit Chabad, the question was, oh, but you're a shliach. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you are a shliach. Your shluchai shalom kemoisei, you have the whole power that both the Meshaleachs have, the Eibishter and Moshe Avdei. And they have pretty big koyches. So you have unbelievable koyches. And therefore the Rebbe said in Yud Shvat, Tovshin X, I don't remember what year it was, but the Rebbe said on Yud Shvat that every Yid's Nefesh Elokis is like the button that everybody would never dare push. Because there's a button which would let forth a hydrogen bomb which would blow up the whole world. There's such a button. Hashem Yishmor.
The Rebbe said that? The Rebbe said that?
Nobody's finger should ever get anywhere near that button. You follow? But the Rebbe said when you press your Nefesh Elokis and you start doing your shlichas, then you let off a hydrogen bomb. That was what the Rebbe said. You literally, not an atom bomb. Atom bomb is going. You let off a hydrogen bomb. Yeah. And what you do is you just blow up and you light up the whole. From which, because shluchei shalom, kama say. And the Rebbe introduced a whole new idea. It's a whole new ball game, a whole new spotlight. Yeah? They were all shluchim. It's moved past Libavitz. It's moved along with Tomchei Tmimim into a whole new, it's moved even further than the upshot of Yud Beis Tammuz. It's moved into a new situation where everything is waiting and everything is there. It's only lacking poil man. Poil man. And so I asked the question, Who's going to do the permanent? What is going to be the permanent? See, it's happening. It's beginning to happen because some people are woken up that they're shluchim. And some people realize that they have unlimited koiches and they're doing it. And that's why what I said before is that it's not that. I got an email just before I came to the Fabring. And I must say, it made me decide to talk about this, what I'm talking now, because I don't know any koich. But I decided I'm going to talk about it, because I got an email from a student of mine that he wasn't just a non-Mashiachist, he was anti, really, bull. And when I was in England now, I met up with him, and we went. He's a student of mine, and I love him. So we had one evening where everybody gone away, including his wife, and everything, something had happened, and the guy had missed the train. The guy was supposed to come and pick me up with a truck or something. He missed the train, and he said he would only be coming another 2 hours. And here's me in this Talmud alone, in quite a big house. And so we had about 2 hours, we're alone. So he says to me, Rav Gafni, he says, maybe we could learn something together. What do you say? I said, what a wonderful idea. And so we just went up to we took out a summer ball. And we opened up at a moment and we started learning. And it was just unbelievable. I've never had such an unbelievable oinig, in years. And all of a sudden he tuned in, and he started to listen to me for the first time, in quite a bit of time. So I tried to get across to him that it's not the same world anymore. And all we could do is bring Mashiach B'Poyo. Everything is there, everything is ready. It's not the same world as it was. In a nice way. I didn't, attack him. In a very nice way. I got an email tonight, and he said, your visit to Gafni it changed my life. That's what he said. That's what he writes me in the email. Yeah. And he said, I now look at the world differently. And he said, Hashem told me I'm going to try and be I've been a shliach over here for a long time. He said, but now I'm going to be another sort of shliach, That's what he writes me in the email. When I saw that, I said, wow, I'm going to go for bringing Talmud Tzedek. I was thinking that maybe I'd just come and say, l'chaim and go home, I said, what am I? Well, it's black and white on the computer. And it's happening all over. People are beginning to wake up. As the old saying, what the American, I don't know if he actually became president, but he was a big macher. He said he can fool all the people Lincoln. Some of the time, and you can fool some of the people. Some of the time, I forgot exactly. But you can't fool all the people all of the time. You follow? Lincoln. So the people have been fooled, but it's gradually reaching the point where they realize that they can't be fooled anymore. They mustn't be fooled. And it's happening, and it's happening in big. It's happening in big, and throughout the world, what the Rebbe said is beginning to gradually take over. So you should realize it's all happening. And the Rebbe's in charge, and Baruch Hashem, it's moving in the most unbelievable way. The media, they don't tell you that, because they don't want you to hear that. They want you to think, that they're running the world. Well, for whatever, they want you to at least, think that that's what happened. and Mamela, it's a different world altogether. It's mamish, mashu acher, and the Rebbe wants you to be a shliach. And if you're a shliach, you got unbelievable koiches, but you say, I'm not going to anymore mix in my own ideas. I'm just going to do it the Rebbe's way, absolutely. Now that's not easy, because a human being likes to be, he likes to be a philosopher, he likes to be independent, he likes so it's a big sacrifice. You can't just give away everything, the whole caboodle. And you say, here I am, Rebbe, wash the floor with me, do whatever you want, but bring him with you. Poor mami. And so what does it mean, poor mami? We say to ourselves, oh yeah, and this and that, We have to be careful that everything we learn, and everything we know about, and everything we heard, and we should try and make it real. We should try and make it happen. You shouldn't just learn something and then lay out on the couch and puff a cigar. You shouldn't do that. But whatever you learn, you have to try and bring it into reality. Everything's poor man. Well, somebody says to you, please come, and so go and put in a word, do something. You don't have to make a huge speech, You don't have to be a vice president, a speaker or something. All you have to do is just say, listen, ניתן, Mashiach is coming, get moving, do what you got to do. And you'll be surprised, people will like it. They will tune in. I get the feeling everybody's anxious to go home, but that's the way it is. We're living it as our time, where mamish, if you're a shliach, then you're kamoisei, and people will listen to you. They will hear you. And particularly if you're big enough to say it in the name of the Rebbe, don't say that you said that. Say it in the name of the Rebbe, bull. You got him. 100%. Anybody, doesn't matter who, even Goyim. Or big time. You got him. From which, we're moving into the malchus of Melech HaMashiach. We're moving into his whole malchus. It's gradually starting to happen, but it's not the word gradually, it's not a correct word. It's happening. It's moving, big time. So listen, guys, we gotta be v'simcha. If we're not v'simcha, then for sure we're gonna just be schleppers. That's not good. So we've got to be v'simcha. You say, I'm not happy, why should I be v'simcha? So that's what a shliach is. A shliach's got to do it. Nobody asked you, man. You're a shliach, and nobody's asking you whether you want to be a shliach or not. You're a shliach. You have to be happy. Otherwise, you're going to be a shlepadika shliach. That's not good. You got to be happy. You got to be just, and you got to make other people happy. A happy person, he makes other people happy. A more shchernik, he makes other people depressed. That's what happens. But if you're happy, and you make other people happy. So, because that's the way Hashem meant it to be. And since it's the way Hashem meant it, it works good. It works the right way. That's it, guys. But it's a formula. The Rebbe has made the whole world into his shluchim. no longer part of a sholem in the ordinary way. No, a very unusual thing. And I'm going to finish with, well, I don't know, but whatever. The Mittler Rebbe says, what does it mean? Ki v'rabim hoyu imodi. What's it? What's it of pshat? What does that mean? So the Mittler Rebbe says an unbelievable pshat in Ki v'rabim hoyu imodi. And he says, that base, barabim, means batoich harabim, inside the rabbim. And he said, Rabbim, Rabbim means Ali Yidden. And something inside Ali Yidden, Hoyo Imodi. That's what helped the Alter Rebbe. That's what made the whole thing be victorious. So he said, what is in all Yidden? Yechida Shebaneved. There's one thing that's in Ali Yidden, and it's a sure bet, and it's the same by everybody, by element. And that's Yechida Shebaneved. The Alter Rebbe woke up the Klal Yisrael, or even Kazeh, that they all got into Yechida Shebaneved, and that's what helped him. That spoke back into them, and therefore all the crazy judges and everybody, you know, their eyes were just dropping out of their heads. They just let the Alter Rebbe out, you know. When l'chora, the odds were very heavily against it. And so the Mittler Rebbe says that due to his Kislev is the Izgalas of Yechida Shebaneved. Once you reach, and the Rebbe says that Yechida Shebaneved is also a bit balabati, because there's higher than Yechida also. And the Rebbe said that's what he's looking for, even higher than Yechida. So everybody said, what's up with this guy? You know, he's crazy. That's crazy, but that's the way it is. Ki barabim hoya imodi. You can say all the thing that's by everybody, higher than Yechida, I got it also, and it's helping me out. It's working with me, and since I got it, then I'm going to win over. You follow? And that's it. So you got to believe be'emunah shlema in these inyanim. We have it. We got it. We got the power. And that's the inyan for Ki v'rabim hoyu imodi. It's a collective thing by Ali Yidden, but it comes together and it can affect you, and you can benefit from it. And that's the pshat of Moshiach, is the Yechida HaKloliyah. He's the general Yechida. So what happens if you're a good Shliach, then you're only 10 away from being Moshiach. In other words, you get all the Yechida of Moshiach himself. No, Yechida HaKloliyah. And so therefore, says the Rebbe, you press your button, boom, a hydrogen bomb. So I certainly hope that you don't blow up whole parts of Sfas tonight. People go home and blow up their homes. You have to be careful what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, that's what's got to happen. We have to be, that's enough to be happy about. It's a hard, recipe. It's not an easy kettle of fish. I remember once I said to my mashpia, these things are hard, So he looked at me smart. He said, "What, you want it to be easy? You really serious? You want something to be easy?" These guys in the back, they didn't know what that was, Easy? It just didn't exist, There was no such concept, And there was people, they were mental in these guys. They didn't know what it was. And have a good evening, gentlemen. Have a really good evening. And look at Shemshut, I tell you what, Moshiach is really due to the Jewish people. They really are worth it. And what Yidden have been through means that Magia Lehem Moshiach.
Amen.
And that's what the Rebbe says, the Moshiach is Magia, all day. And so, let's not just, say Aleinu and spit out on the floor and go home, Aleinu the Shabbat, then just go home, Shalom Aleichem. This is if you want to spit, you have to spit out all the balabatichka. You have to spit out all the clip. That's you. You follow? You have to get cracking. And Hashem said, oh, listen, you test Kessler is a very big day. Hanukkah. The second time the Alter Rebbe got up was Hanukkah. 2 years later, Tov Kuf Samachal. Yeah. Pretty amazing business. So Hashem said, oh, that we'll all be sitting with the big menorah in Jerusalem by next Tuesday night. We'll all be sitting here. I bought some things for the Hanukkah menorah. I came home and I told my wife she didn't have to buy them. I already bought myself. Then all of a sudden I said to my wife, I said, listen, Ima, it's enough. Let's both decide that we want the real menorah, I had someone can have 7 hands, this one's got 8, but we want the real menorah, so let's decide. So she liked the idea. So I hope that we will put up, praises Hashem. Oh, but enough, speak of it. Very nice, very nice. We want Moshiach now. This guy told me he's never been able to get it out of himself. The way the Rebbe looked at him and the size to him with these holy eyes. I am me, my poor mama. No slogans around here, So there we are, guys. L'chaim. And how's the saying? Have it in English. Be joyous and of good heart. And that's it. It's not ot kun Moshiach, but Moshiach sorry here. We gotta just make him Choil Mam. So l'chaim, guys. L'chaim, have a good evening. And I want to tell you, I heard, by way of, rounding off the whole deal here, I was once talking with Rav Landa about something about, he wanted to make a meeting, and he said he very rarely makes meetings. He tries to avoid it. Because he said meetings, people, come and they all get, a bit stirred up and everything. Then all of a sudden somebody says, the meeting's finished. So I say, oh yeah, I'll tell you, the meeting's finished. And they all go home and they make a lane, they spit on the floor and go home. That's it, He doesn't like meetings. But he said in this particular case he has to do it. Otherwise he's not going to be able to get the people to agree. He's got to make a meeting. So I said to him, Omarenu l'rotzen lifnei Adon kol. Now that is one of the 17 Pesukim you say before a kofar. But it's very interesting that it's not a pasuk. All the other 16 things are all Pesukim. That is not a pasuk anyway. you know, Marino Larotan Lifnei Adain Kel, is a bakosha. It's a prayer. It's a bakosha. It's not a person. So I said, you know, Marino Larotan Lifnei Adain Kel. So all of a sudden he went very serious. He said, I'll tell you, I heard the Rebbe say that, the Rebbe Rashab. When he said the word Rebbe, he meant the Rebbe Rashab. He said, I heard the Rebbe Rashab say that at the end of a meeting. And he said, however, normally speaking, the world says, what does that mean? Let what we're going to say be accepted willingly and auguriously by Hashem. You know, Marino Larotan, what we're saying should be received and well accepted by the Eivishter. So the Rebbe Rashab said that's not the real pshat. No, the real pshat is don't slow. You know, Amareno, that all that we're going to say should be it should be what the Eivishter wants us to say. Not that whatever we'll say, Hashem should put up with it and receive it. But whatever we will say will be l'rotzen lifnei Adon Kol. It should be what the Eivishter's will is that we should really be saying. So when I heard that, I fell off my chair. In the old days, you know, when I was young, I had to fall off my chair.
Before you were seatbelts.
He knows about it. But I got up again. That's the most amazing thing. You know? That whatever we say should be what Hashem really wants us to say. So you know, Amarenu Larotzen Lifnei Adoin Koil. Bye. Have a good evening, gentlemen.
חיים, רב גפני, חיים. פגעתי.
I heard that from, I was there, he said it, I heard it from. Mipelo Eizem.
חיים.
Chaim.
la
No, give him L'chaim. He should realize Nehemiah had gelernt in Tolchei. He learned in Tolchei. No. And therefore, Asher okay, since he learned in Tolchei, we, as also we learned in Tolchei, how we did it, I don't know, but we did. We learned in Tolchei. So we have the right to bless him. We have the right to give him a bracha. And we give him a bracha that Amir Tzashem, it should be, how do you call it, Godel habayis hazeh ha'achrein min ha'rizay. And it should be b'simcha v'tov levo. And tell the brachas. So I don't know, what if he understands or if I understand what he doesn't understand or what I understand he didn't understand, he doesn't understand. What I mean is it should be good, you understand?
I'm Shetla.
And Chaim.
Chaim with the bracha.
And Talmud was from Tolchei. So that's the story. So I want to tell you now, I'm going home, but until I actually do it, it takes me a bit of time. I want to tell you just two little stories. One is very recent, and one goes back a long time. Last night I was in the we were together last night in the yeshiva Tmei. So there's one bocher there that I have a little bit of a kesser with him, but I sort of cross swords with him a little bit, occasionally. In a good way, of course, in a nice way. So I'm getting my coat on, And he comes over to me and he says to me, he says, Rabbi, he says, how am I supposed to be different? How can I really make myself different and be better? That's what he says last night. That happened. I said, yeah. I think to myself, wow. So I said to him, you have to learn a lot of chassidut. You must learn a lot of chassidut. But you have to get up on time. You mustn't schluff anymore to say the chassidut. And you must get up and you must learn a lot of the chassidut. So he said, but what's that going to help me? So I said, if you open your door to the chassidut, it will show you what you're going to do. You know? That's what I said to him. So then he sort of embraced me and we got a bit sentimental and then that was it. That was about it. So you might say, well, say something a bit more practical. Why did you say that? So I think I might have already told this story, but if I did, suddenly you can all chaffer schlafen. And I'll have to stay awake, but I'll tell the story.
Tell it.
It goes way back to the early days in Australia. Which, when I was in Australia, I met a lot of very elevated people. I say it to everything I felt, So I had my mashpia, I was very close to him. And since I didn't really have, a house or a place where I lived, I was in the community, but I didn't, so I had a sort of a room by a family. It's also a whole story, what happened with me and them, because they were not Chabadnis, and they were even against Chabad, and they tried to talk me into leaving Chabad. Yeah, it's a whole story. These people that I had the room in their house, but they didn't succeed. But so I used to, after Mariv on Moitzer Shabbos, I used to go to my mashpia's house to hear Havdalah. He would, he'd make Havdalah for his family. I would hear Havdalah, and then usually what would happen, we would sit for a while and talk, all sorts of. And then I used to chaperein, I used to get all sorts of things. So that's what was happening. We're walking home from shul after Mariv on Moitzer Shabbos, and I'm going towards his house to hear Havdalah. Now he had a son, and in the shul, his son had just said a maimach chassidus at Shalosh Shudas. Now I happen to know that somebody else was supposed to say the maimach, not him. But that somebody else, all of a sudden at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or 3 in the afternoon, he came up to the gabbai of the shul, or walked into his house, and he said, listen, I'm not going to chazal any maimah, I just don't have the koyach, and I don't have any maimah, so I'm not saying a maimah. Yes. So the gabbai, in those days, to be left without a maimah at Shalosh Shudas was like a serious, lahavdil building of a grievous fault, So the gabbai thinks, what's he going to do? He has to have a maimah. Oh, he said, Chaim, So he goes around to Chaim's house, and he knocks him up, and it's not like it was in the time of the year, from 2 till midnight, it's not all that much time. It wasn't in some summer in the afternoon, till 7 or 8 at night or something. He says to Chaim, Chaim, ich darf a maimah, He said, I need a maimah. So Chaim says, Be'ezah Hashem. He said, okay. And he chazed a maimah like he would have known this maimah, and he would have learned it about 6 months, solid, and chazed it every day. And he just gave over his maimah. I didn't understand everything, but I got the main gist, and I could hear that it was with this amazing control, shlita. This guy's pretty much, chutz midach yateva, he's not doing too bad, this guy, So as we're walking back, he's the son of my mashpia. So as we're walking back home, I said to my mashpia, you must have a lot of nachas from your son. So he sort of turned to me. I said it in Yiddish, I was already learning Yiddish. So he turned to him and he says, what's for a nachas? In Yiddish, it means, what sort of nachas, So I said, well, look, he chazes chassidus. And he says, oh, chassidus, in this most amazing way, And it sounds very emes, So you must have a lot of nachas from that, So he walked a couple of steps, and then he said, yeah. He said, I have a lot of nachas from that he chazes, the chassidus. He said, but I have a lot more nachas from something else. I said, oh yeah, what's that? So he said, I have a lot more nachas that he lives the chassidus. He doesn't just chazad the chassidus, but he lives the chassidus. He said, from that I have incomparably more nachas. So I'm walking along, and I used to fall off chairs, but I wasn't so used to falling in the street, you know. But I fell over the local fence, you know, into the next garden, you know. When I heard that, so chat. You realize what he meant with that? He chazed chassidus very beautifully, but he lived the chassidus. Why did he chazed it? Because that was his life. He lived it. He said, that's why and Mela, I'll leave that with you, gentlemen. That's the helicopter. The one for the road. I told last night on Amaisa that the Shikurim in Australia, they drink a lot. You know, they sit around in big groups. And they shikazach on beer, you know. But there's the only way the government can control is that there's a closing time, you know. And after that, the balabas has to close, and if he gives one beer to any man, he's going to lose his whole pub and his whole license and everything. And the guy's going to be put into prison, who knows what it is. Yeah, so it's pretty serious business. Yeah, so you got all these shikurim, and they're all sitting and they're all drinking and everything's fine. All of a sudden walks in the balabas, you know, the one who owns the place, and he says, stop, closing time, everybody, Aroy. I don't know if he said the word Aroy, but he said, you know, out, you know. So all shikurim, you know, they're not particularly nishpol from the whole thing, you know. And then one of them says, but listen, you know, he's right, he's got to close up, you know. So then he comes up and he says, yeah, he's right, he's got to close up. He said, oh, well, we're going to go. So he said, we have to have one more for the road. In order to go out, we have to have one more. And if we have one more, then we'll have the power to go out. So, the whole looks at the clock, you know, it's creeping around 1 minute after 10, but he says, well, do it quick. And he gives them, and they all drink all together one more, and then they take off. So I don't even remember what's for the one more that I was going to say. I can't even. But what it means is that Pearl Mummies is not an easy thing. And that's why it's so difficult, you know. And few are the people that I've seen, but I've seen them, that they mummies were pearl mummies, what they said, you know, of a pearl mummy. And I've seen them. And if we could all be that way, sure bet. Even before you get home, you'll be jumping up on one of the Anan Ishmael, what the Rebbe said they travel pretty fast. And you'll be jumping up on one of the Anan Ishmael, and you meet up with another Yid over there, and he'll probably suggest to you that if you don't mind, he sells tickets for the Anan Ishmael. And he'll want to earn a few bucks on you. You know, so. But you'll be so happy about Moshe that you won't mind paying him the few bucks. Yeah. Yid muss machen a Geschäft. Aber Mela, we have to live by what we hold, you know. That's my one for the road. And it's not easy. Few are the people I've seen. But it's interesting, I was telling him the other day that the Rosh Yeshiva, his name is Vilshanti, Itcher Vilshanti. His Zayda, I saw him in Australia, from Zen. And he was one of those people. He was the most amazing guy. First of all, he was beautiful, he had this upon him. He was a weaver, but he, whatever he said, he did. Philip says. No messing around. And so it's written in the Siddhas you have to do. So in the middle of an ordinary day, he would just do it. He wasn't concerned what others were doing, what was happening. He was just doing it. And it looked so beautiful. It was just so unbelievably moving to see it happen. And that's what we're going to do. And I had another mashpia that Rabava Plitske, that he used to talk to the Eibishter, Mames. He didn't use that as daven, but he would sort of look up at the Eibishter, play with his tzitzis like this, he would talk with the Eibishter. That's an amazing sight. But I'm sure the Eibishter listened. I'm positive. And Dave was listening. But he would sort of not sit with the closet, he would just talk with the Eibishter for a long time. An hour and a half, no problem. Talking to the anyway, that's my one for the road. So we're all we're going to hit the road,
You've seen them. We didn't even hear about them.
Huh?
You've seen them. You've seen the tzio. We didn't even hear about them.
Day mashmiya l'riya. As is up to Gemara. It's of a shmiya is better than gornish. Hearing is at least better than gornish. That's for sure. As a matter of tzidkas l'chaim, have a good Erev Shabbos. The Rebbe says we're holding by Erev Shabbos, Acha Chatzeis, and Korev Lebeinu Shmoshes. No. So have a good Erev Shabbos, and hopefully we'll all be inside the Azorah, making our way into the Kodesh HaKadoshim by the time Shabbos comes. So, Tzvi, are you fit to drive? Yeah. So, maybe. Veyani yevtabavani yevtabavani
Bye. Kafka,